order, I guess, of seating here. So we've got Beau Shaw of the NDP, and then we've got Greg McLean of the Conservatives, and Luhnau of the Liberals, and then we've got the Green Party right here, and Jayden Baldonado.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming out to get informed and have some positive discourse on the issues that are most important to Canadians this federal election. My name is Jayden Baldonado, and I'm the Green Party of Canada candidate in the riding of Calgary Centre. And so it's a little bit about myself. I am a university student currently attending Mount Royal University, where I'm studying environmental science. And as someone involved in the sciences, I know firsthand the importance of evidence-based policy in addressing the issues that are most prominent. I've also done quite a bit of work in the community, working with local mutual aid groups such as the Walls Down Collective. So community building is something that's very important to me. Solidarity between the most marginalized among us, ensuring that everybody's able to have their needs met and survive and thrive in this society. And so my motivation for running as a candidate in the election is I've been passionate ever since I was a kid about the issues, not only environmental justice, but also social and economic justice. And to be honest, I don't see the big parties addressing what needs to be addressed adequately. And so I feel like Canadian politics needs some fresh new voices, and I feel like the Greens are a great opportunity to bring new, diverse perspectives into the arena. Thank you.
Right on time, and this is actually going to help us keep time. With 5 seconds left, I'll put them right here, and then you'll hear them if you go over. So, Lindsay Luhnau, go ahead.
Thank you. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Lindsay Luhnau, and I'm running here in Calgary Centre to represent you and be your voice in Ottawa. I do want to thank the organizers for today for putting this on, and I also especially want to thank the many campaign volunteers who have worked tirelessly over the last few weeks on our Calgary Centre campaign. I'd also like to thank all of you for joining us today. I'm sure there's better things that you could be doing, well, maybe not on a Sunday. But it's really important to be engaged in politics, and having a debate like this in Calgary Centre, really the coolest riding in the city. So I have had the pleasure of living here in Calgary Centre for the past 20 years. I've raised my family here in Calgary Centre, and I have volunteered alongside you here in Calgary Centre. I've fought to make our communities stronger, our communities safer, and our communities more prosperous. Most recently, I've been a director with Local Investing YYC, where we raise money from Calgarians for direct investment into Calgary businesses, not only for economic diversification, but to keep jobs and profits here in Calgary and grow our regional economic resilience. I want to take that drive and community spirit to Ottawa and be the voice for all of you. Right now, the polls have myself and my Conservative opponent neck and neck, so it's going to be a Liberal or Conservative going to Ottawa. And I'm asking for your vote on April 28th. Mark Carney is the only choice to stand up to Donald Trump. That's something that we're hearing at the doors. Mark Carney has weathered crises before, and he's doing it again right now. And we will come out of this a stronger country and a united country with a Liberal government. Please join me in supporting a positive vision for Canada on April 28th.
The Conservatives, over to you.
Well, thank you, Cold Garden, for hosting your big event. I don't know how many churches, basements you raised to kind of bring out so many people here today, but thanks everybody for participating in local democracy, because this is very important. You get to pick who you choose to go to Ottawa to represent your concerns at the national level. And so much of this is just avoided. It's top down. Who's the leader? Who's the party? Let's get down to what we're going to do as far as who's going to represent your interests in Ottawa moving forward here. I've been your representative for the last 5.5 years, and we've been fighting for a better economy in Canada. We've been fighting for better results for Canadians for 5.5 years, and we need to turn this around. This election is about a choice. And that choice is really continue on the same path we're on or change path. And the path we're on right now includes lower wages for all Canadians, higher taxes for all Canadians, less economic opportunity. And let's look at where we were 10 years ago and where we are now. What's happened in the last 10 years when we should have been building pipelines to get our resources marketed? We should have been building infrastructure. We should have been building our economy to diversify beyond the trade behemoth to the south so we can actually get diversification trade. None of this has happened under the previous government for a reason. These are choices. We have to make choices going forward as well. So we're here today to select somebody to represent us in Parliament that will bring forward solutions for the future, that will build a better future for all Canadians, a strong, united country based on a strong economy that's going to be the bedrock of our foundation for our kids, for our grandkids, for our entire future, where we're all going to live. So thank you, everyone.
Going down the line now over to the NDP with Beau Shaw. Take it away.
Yeah, of course, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out, and of course, my wonderful team of volunteers who are recording this event so that folks who couldn't squeeze in can actually see the debate and take part themselves. First and foremost, my name's Beau Shaw. I've been a worker on payroll since I was 12 years old. I know how far a dollar should go, and I know it's not going far enough. So, this election is about more than who will be the next prime minister. It's about the moral fiber of our country. It's about who gets ahead and who falls behind. It's about ensuring that our seniors and our most vulnerable are taken care of. We're making sure that Canadians get what they need. And it's about how we fight back against Donald Trump. Not if, how. With support for farmers and workers, Canadian businesses, their families, and their communities. In Alberta, there are two choices. Danielle Smith and Pierre Poilievre's way, gutting public services and channeling taxpayer dollars to their friends in high places, or the NDP way, creating a stronger, more resilient Canada where everyone can thrive. Most Canadians share the same values. We're willing to put the work in and get things done together. The Conservative Party has aligned itself with Trump-style politics, putting others down instead of raising each other up. I agree that we need to diversify our economy. We need to invest in expanding our power grid. We need to invest in our workers. We need to invest in our businesses and our communities. Myself and the NDP are here to make that happen. The NDP has long served as the conscience of the Liberals in Parliament. We fought and won for universal health care, and we fought and won dental care, pharmacare, and universal child care, so that young families can make their way into the working environment. And we're continuing to do that now.
Okay. Thank you to all the candidates for thoughtful intros. So now comes the fun part. Jake's got the timer teed up, and we'll start with question 1. An important issue in this campaign, as reported by the Angus Reid Institute, is that Canadians want the federal government to control inflation. What specific plans does your party have to reduce the cost of living? I'll reach into my disco cowboy hat. And Beau Shaw, you have 2 minutes for this question.
Of course. So there are global circumstances beyond our control that contribute to inflation. But that doesn't mean our federal government's hands are tied. We can support Canadians right now. The NDP has already gotten dental care for millions of Canadians across the country. We're committed to expanding that. We're committed to expanding pharmacare, and we're committed to making sure that EI is most accessible to people who end up laid off, so that they're able to pay their bills and they're able to continue to contribute to our economy in a time of economic downturn. We're also proposing scrapping the GST on basics like groceries, restaurant meals, diapers, kids' clothes, internet and phone bills, and home heating. We want to ban companies from billing you for healthcare services. We want federal investment in non-market and social housing so that you're able to afford a place to live. We want to work with provinces to implement rent control and ban unfair practices such as fixed-term leases and rent evictions. We know that big grocery store chains have been ripping off Canadians. They're experiencing near triple profits since 2020 on our dime, on our backs. I don't see the Liberals or Conservatives proposing real cost-saving measures for Canadians right now. We need to build, but we need to build better. That means making sure that Canadians are taken care of first.
Okay, we'll open up the floor for 5 minutes of discourse, and I'm gonna try and keep this balanced, so keep an eye around a minute, minute and a half for each of you, and I'll make sure that the chicken comes out if you're talking over each other. Take it away. Greg, go ahead.
I will say that there's causes. Some of those causes include what the government does itself. The government has been printing money over the last decade and running excessive deficits. And think about the amount we're spending on interest on our debt alone. It's $53 billion per year. That's more than the federal government spends on health. So more and more of our money is being drained into excess offshore interest accounts that aren't helping the Canadian people at all. And at the same time, in order to pay for that and run a $62 billion deficit, the government's taking 86% of Canadians have more taxes to pay to the government than they did 10 years ago. So we're going down in our affordability, we're going down in our lifestyles, and we're paying more taxes, more interest to offshore accounts. This is something that can't be sustained. So the number one thing you have to do is make sure you get back to balance and stop running huge deficits. Those deficits are driven in this country off this country. But will continue to hurt us going forward as we continue to mount this deficit. A deficit control program has to be put into place in order to get us back to a basis where people are spending in their taxes for services they actually are receiving, not paying for somebody else's debt they want to make away. So get those under control and move quickly from there.
Thanks for that input, Greg. Lindsay, looks like you're ready to go. Oh, sure, Jay, you got something to say?
I'd like to echo the sentiments put forward by our NDP candidate, Beau Shaw, and additionally, I'd like to propose a universal basic income in order to ensure that all Canadians are able to have their basic needs met while simultaneously working to invest back in our economy. In our rapidly changing economy, where many of our working class citizens have to reskill or become entrepreneurs. UBI provides something to fall back on in case people are unable to afford the costs of either running their own business or going back to school in order to update their skills for our changing industries. And it'll also make sure that nobody falls through the cracks of the current means-tested welfare system that we currently have in place. And then additionally, I'd like to say that in response to our Conservative candidate's point, Greg McLean, I'd like to point out that there is a lot of wealth in Canada, but the thing is that it's concentrated in the hands of a very small proportion of the population, that being the wealthy. And with a wealth tax, we can ensure that those hoarding all the wealth and keeping everyday ordinary working class Canadians like me and you from prosperity, ensure that they're paying their fair share and then have that money go back into social services that help out everybody and not just a few.
Thanks for your insight, Caleb.
So I definitely feel the pinch of inflation too. I have 2 teenage boys at home, so you can probably just imagine what my grocery bill is. Also, I did not have the benefit of having $10 a day daycare when my kids were younger, and it was a huge loss for us. I'm really proud that the Liberals put in $10 a day daycare, and I'd like to see it fully implemented here in Alberta. It is a struggle, and things are going to be a struggle with how it's going in the United States. But a Liberal government will recognize that, and has recognized that. Our new Prime Minister, Mark Carney, did cut the consumer carbon tax on his first day as Prime Minister, which has created cost savings for everyone since then. In addition to that, we're proposing a middle class tax cut, and we really want to build more houses. The housing affordability crisis is real in this country, and we're proposing to build 500,000 new homes every year going forward. In addition to that, we're proposing to expand the basic dental care to all ages. And I want to work really hard to ensure that the Conservative provincial government goes ahead and signs on with pharmacare regardless of any conditions.
Round of applause for all of our responses, everybody. Thank you very much. Moving on to question 2 now. Nice, didn't break. We're good. There's often a lot of discussion about energy diversity and energy transition. By all accounts, an energy transition will take decades. With that in mind, how will your party promote a balanced energy strategy that can be embraced by all Canadians? This question will be for Greg McLean.
Well, thank you. That's a good question for me. I actually have spent 5.5 years in Parliament trying to make sure we get energy development in this country, recognize that the energy we develop in this province, in this country, is amongst the cleanest in the world and the best we can supply to the world. The problem is there's been a narrative saying that we don't have that. We do have that. We have a whole bunch of resources here we could actually export to the world and displace a bunch of less responsible energy from around the world. For instance, exporting liquefied natural gas to Asian countries would lessen their dependence on coal and exploiting new coal facilities. That would reduce the amount of CO2 emissions significantly, as well as the particulates associated there. Why has it been held up in Canada? It's been held up in Canada, while 12 have gone forward in the United States, because of poor regulations put it in place by the current government. Why aren't we contributing to climate change solutions around the world? Because this government has held up the obvious solutions. And I brought 4 bills in the House of Commons to bring carbon capture sequestration forward and making sure we actually contribute in many ways. Our industry is fantastic here in Canada. We have great standards, we have great reporting, everything works here. We've got to make sure we look forward to that and build on a future that will continue to exploit all our energy resources. The world needs more energy. There isn't an estimate out there that says we're not going to be consuming at least double the amount of energy in the next 20 years. Where's that energy going to come from? It's going to come from all sources. And take a look at the transition that's already happened thus far. We've gone down from 81% of fossil fuels providing power to the world to about 80% in the last 15 years. So recognize the increments that have gone up as far as more energy consumption goes. You don't just throw away the baby with the bathwater when you're moving towards new energies. You build on all of them. You build on solar, you build on wind, you build on geothermal, you build on hydrogen. Every one of these energy solutions is going to have a niche, but in the meantime, our society runs on energy. That reliable, affordable energy is right here in Alberta, and I intend to make sure we move that forward. Thank you.
Second, big housekeeping items, so if the candidates can speak into the microphone. Cody, sound guy, if you can turn up the outdoor speakers a little bit for the folks out there. Awesome. Okay, well, we've got 5 minutes. Lindsay's trumping at the bit here, I can tell. Why don't you start?
Yeah.
Okay, sure, yes. So there is often a lot of discussion about energy diversity and energy transition. By all accounts, an energy transition will take decades. And with that in mind, how will your party promote a balanced energy strategy that can be embraced by all Canadians? So discourse for the other 3 candidates to have 5 minutes, and your time starts now. Lindsay, you go ahead.
Thank you so much. As a born and raised Calgarian, I understand how important our traditional oil and gas business is to us here in Calgary and here in Alberta. But I've often felt that we're missing telling the full story to the world, that we here in Calgary are a global energy superpower in all types of energy. And we need to be telling that story in Ottawa, and we need to be telling that story around the world. We know that a Liberal government was the only government that was able to get an inch of pipeline to new markets in the previous years. In addition to that, successful oil and gas companies have seen record profits in 2022 and near record profits in 2023. But we have a huge opportunity here. Calgary can be recognized as a global energy leader in all things energy. We have the people smarts here, we have the technology, and we have the innovation. And we need someone strong in Ottawa who is going to get funding and investment to Calgary for a clean energy transition.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in agreement with both Greg and Lindsay here. Calgary is an energy superpower. We have a great opportunity to become a global superpower in renewables and specifically wind, solar, and geothermal. We're spending about $18 billion in federal subsidies for the oil and gas sector, where there are just about 6% of employed Albertans in the oil and gas sector. Every single oil and gas employee who's been laid off could be employed cleaning up our orphaned oil wells as well for the next 75 years. We're investment from our federal government to clean up our mess, but also innovate. We can innovate. There are new wind harnessing technologies. There are new solar harnessing technologies that our government has yet to invest in. And I know that the NDP will be pushing for that level of investment.
Okay, yeah, Jay will give you the opportunity.
I'm gonna take a bit of a different perspective on this question, and I'm gonna say that although I do recognize the value and the prosperity that the oil and gas sector has brought to our province, we must recognize the impact of climate change and how they affect other aspects of our economy as well. So for instance, with rising temperatures, increasing frequency of droughts, increased evaporation, we're having a big hit to our agricultural industry, and if those yields drop, we're gonna struggle to, even more than we already are, to put food on the table and to provide for a living for workers in that sector. So we do need to rapidly transition away from our dependence on oil and gas, but it doesn't have to come at the expense of workers. Because with the UBI and reskilling programs that the Greens favor, oil and gas employees would have the opportunity to adapt their skills for a modern energy economy, whether that be traditional renewables like wind and solar, geothermal, which there is huge potential for in Alberta, and old spent wells, oil and gas infrastructure can be converted to geothermal wells eventually. And additionally, nuclear is something that can be explored. So the world does need to move forward, and Canada has a great opportunity here to be the lead, to take the lead on the global transition.
Thanks for those insights, Jay. I don't think you've got some more comments. Go ahead, do it. And Greg, we'll have to keep that in your memory bank. We'll allow these rebuttals just for the other candidates. And we'll save that for your concluding remarks if you like. So Lindsay, over to you.
I just wanted to say that I agree with Beau. I think that there are many opportunities in cleaning up orphan wells here in Alberta. I'd just like to share that the federal Liberal government has provided funding to have that done here in Alberta. We've run into several roadblocks with the Conservative provincial government here. So I will continue to fight for that to happen here.
Okay, nice reminder, speak into the microphones. All right, so question 3. There's been a lot of talk in recent years about diversifying Alberta's economy. In light of the recent global trade wars spurred on by the US tariffs, what's your party's plan to help diversify and strengthen Alberta's economy? Okay, Lindsay Luhnau, take it away.
Thank you so much for the question. I was actually hoping to get this question.
Okay, pull your mic a little closer. You don't want the folks outside hearing
Yeah.
every word.
Awesome. So I did mention in my opening that I am a local economy practitioner and I am really interested in regional economic diversification and how we get that done. I was really excited to see Mark Carney win the leadership for the Liberal Party, and it spurred me to put my hat into the ring and to join him on a journey to really invest in Canada and take on a very ambitious building program. What we really want to do is build an east to west energy corridor. So not just our traditional oil and gas, but looking at other energy resources and pairing it with transportation as well. In addition to that, I think that what has happened with the US has made us realize that we have many barriers for interprovincial trade and movement of professionals. The Liberal government has promised that by Canada Day, we will be eliminating all trade barriers across Canada between provinces. In addition to that, one of our platform announcements was related to moving energy and other projects forward, taking a one window, one project approach to approvals. Meaning when projects are submitted to the federal government, they go through a single department and have a 2-year maximum timeline for approval or rejection. In addition to that, we will be seeking for agreements of cooperation with all of the provinces to ensure that provincial and other impact assessments are recognized at a federal level so that there is no lost time in project approvals. Finally, I think that we must embrace the opportunity right now to diversify our economy and focus on the strengths here in Canada, protecting Canadian jobs and protecting the Canadian economy. Thank you.
Yeah. Why you keep the dance going when you're looking at the floor? Been a lot of talk in recent years about diversifying the Alberta economy, and in the recent global trade wars spurred on by the US tariffs, what's your party's plan to diversify and strengthen Alberta's economy? Who wants to take it away? Greg, go ahead.
Thank you. And Lindsay, thank you for your comments and thank you for your proposals going forward here. I would note that those are recent Liberal policies, like the recent Liberal policy to drop the the carbon tax, the recent Liberal policy to drop the capital gains tax. Now you're probably on more policies from the Conservative policy book. So this is literally been local media as far as performance goes over the last 10 years of actually doing exactly the opposite of what you are proposing your party's standing for at this point in time. This is something that's held us back for a long time. And you think about it, you can't go to the end of your term and go, okay, we're totally different now. Don't judge us on our performance, judge us on what we're going to say going forward here. I can't tell you how many times the Liberals have come to the election and said, we're going to do this and we're not going to do this. And when they get in power, they do exactly the opposite. It is, I'm going to spread open the future now. We've got a very important industry to get going in this province. It is essential that we actually get the barriers out of the way. Getting this economy diversified, by the way, this economy is now 21% dependent on oil and gas. When it used to be a decade ago, over 30% dependent on oil and gas. So we are working hard at it. And the number one way we do that is with technology. Technology is moving us forward in so many ways. And the technology diversifies across industries. The number one thing people that work in technology are looking for is a quality of life. And we have great quality of life here in Calgary. We need to continue to build that. That is an essential going forward here. And that includes a tax system that doesn't take all their money away and effectively make their intellectual property worth half as much as it should be in the rest of the world. These people can go anywhere, so let's get them here.
All right, thanks for the comment, Beau Shaw. Take it away.
Yeah, I completely agree with Greg that technology is the way forward. I work in tech myself, an electronics technologist. I work with database systems and networked audiovisual systems, so I really appreciate the tech here today. I do want to say that building out our power grid is one way that we can diversify our economy, making sure that we have enough energy to power technological advancements like data centers in our province and in our country. A lot of our data is actually stored in the United States. Data sovereignty and cybersecurity are also ways that we need to diversify our economy now, make sure our information is safe and our assets are secure. I agree that we need to make sure that our current products make it to market. The East-West Pipeline sounds great. We need to get all provinces on board with that. I haven't yet to see that. But making sure that we have real investments in renewables is a priority. We cannot rely on the boom and bust anymore. We just can't. We need to make sure that our economy is stabilized by renewables and other tech investments. That will bring the talent here. That will bring a lot of jobs here, a lot of investment to Canada. In fact, Danielle Smith passed up on, 13 billion in renewables investment with her moratorium in Alberta. We need to put a stop to that conservative ideology that preserves oil and gas at the expense of economic prosperity.
All right, thank you for that. I would like to agree with much of what our NDP candidate, Beau Shaw, has said, particularly in terms of data centers and data sovereignty, as well as the importance of investing in renewables. And what I'd like to say is that the situation with President Trump down in the United States and his tariffs are showing us that just how badly we need to diversify not only our trading partners on a global scale, but also our industries domestically. Because our economy is overly reliant right now on what we like to call rip and ship resource extractions, where we extract resources, not only oil and gas, but also mining and the lumber industry. And I propose that we invest more in manufacturing here at home in Canada as well, because a lot of the time we're relying on other countries to import our raw resources and manufacture it there. But if we have more manufacturing in Canada, we can stabilize our economy, reduce our reliance on these partners who we can see might be fickle.
That'll be time, Jayden. Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody. Question number 4, the final one of our predetermined questions. So more than 6 million Canadians don't have a family doctor. According to a 2025 Health Canada report, Canada is currently short 22,823 family physicians. What would your party do to increase the number of family doctors in Canada to ensure all Canadians have timely access to a regular primary health care provider? And we'll do this for fun. And we know it's going to you, Jayden.
All right, thank you. So in terms of healthcare, it's definitely a growing crisis that needs to be addressed immediately. And so there's a short-term approach we could take as well as a long-term approach. In the short term, what we can do is increase our acceptance of newcomers to Canada who are licensed to practice medicine in other countries and make it easier for them to adapt their credentials in order to practice medicine here as well, not only doctors, but nurses as well, because our healthcare workers are very overworked and there's a burnout crisis, as we can see, and it's really difficult for Canadians to find access to the medical services that they need. And then in the long term, what we plan to do is make post-secondary education tuition free, which would allow more people who are currently living in Canada to study and become doctors without the costs of affordability. Because obviously, right now, school is expensive. I'm a student myself, I know that firsthand. And that on top of having to pay rent, buy groceries in a lot of cases, if they're not able to be supported by their families, prevents a lot of people who have the potential and the drive to become doctors and nurses from doing so. So we must invest both short-term and long-term in our healthcare system in order to ensure that every Canadian has access to the healthcare services that they need.
Always being it, more than 6 million Canadians don't have a family doctor. According to a 2025 Health Canada report, we're short 22,000 plus family physicians. What would your party do to increase the number of family doctors in Canada and ensure all Canadians have timely access to a regular primary health care provider? We got 5 minutes, split relatively equally. Who wants to take it first? Beau Shaw down at the end.
Yeah, obviously, New Democrats care about our healthcare system, we built it. Workforce strategy to strengthen our healthcare system against Americanization. And as a first step, we're going to make sure that every Canadian has a family doctor by 2030. We want to create residences for qualified, internationally trained doctors already living in Canada to get thousands more licensed family doctors. Streamline doctors who leave the United States to practice in Canada. We'd love to see it. We're going to implement pan-Canadian licensure to help medical professionals practice where they're needed across the country. We want to train and equip more doctors from northern and rural communities to serve their hometowns. Work with provinces and doctors to reduce burdensome administrative paperwork that takes time away from patients. Work with territorial governments to provide housing and facilities for family doctors and primary care teams to keep healthcare providers in the north. For decades, our leaders have let our public healthcare system slide, and we need to reinvest now.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. Recently, the number one hit that doctors took to their income statement was when the federal liberal government introduced an increase in the capital gains tax. And they've since withdrawn that leading into this election, but that was a pickpocket for every medical practitioner across this country to say, you owe us more taxes. Forget about the practices, forget about all the people you serve, forget about everything you've forsaken all these years in getting your education, providing care to people across this country. We want more of your money. In retrospect, we're retroactive taxation. And it was obscene, quite frankly, and the doctors spoke to us, and the dentists and all the other healthcare practitioners came and said, what is happening here with taxation in Canada? I'm glad at the edge of the election, the Liberals decided to withdraw that tax increase, but that penalized doctors and professionals more than anything, right? We've got to make sure we get back to a healthcare system. Let me take everybody back to 1996, when Jean Chrétien faced a deficit that was mounting and out of control, debt that was growing significantly. The International Monetary Fund had Canada on its list of countries that they would have to come and supervise their economies because we were so far now. What did Jean Chrétien do at that point in time? He cut the federal contribution to healthcare funding from 50% federal to 23% federal, throwing the burden onto all the provinces across the country. And that has continued to be the problem with healthcare across this country ever since. We've got to get back to a funded healthcare system that works for everybody if we're going to get the services we need, particularly with the demographics we have. So get some actual reality into the situation, but get the debt under control, because debt, once again, is mounting beyond control. This government has increased the debt in Canada to $1.4 trillion. It's only a matter of time before we can't even afford to
Appreciate those comments. Let's give you the opportunity. Yeah, condensation. Magic of CG. Go ahead.
I just want to note that, protecting our public healthcare system is absolutely essential. And that's something that a Liberal government will do always. Not being able to access family doctors is impacting people. Again, I have teenage sons, and so unfortunately I do spend some time in the emergency room waiting to get cast for broken bones. but I can see how backed up our emergency rooms are with people who are there with non-urgent issues who just can't get a family doctor. This is something that needs to be addressed immediately.
For that input, okay?
Here in Alberta, the Conservatives are moving towards a private American-style healthcare system. We must take this opportunity with disgruntled doctors and scientists from the US and provide them with an opportunity to come back to Canada and to fill those many jobs, those many positions for family doctors that need to be filled. I just want to also reiterate that part of the promise to break down trade barriers between provinces also applies to credentials for doctors and nurses who we can also attract here in Calgary.
Welcome these crowd reactions. Keep it up, folks. So, this brings us to our break. The person on stage here, Scott Fay of the Party Rhinoceros. We want to give Scott an opportunity to introduce himself with the same 2 minutes that the other candidates got. So we're going to have to share this here, Scott, but let me pass it down to you.
Thank you. All right. I was reflecting about how far I've come in life here the other day when I was standing in front of the Elections Canada office, and it was net distance of about 75 to 100 meters from where I was born to where I was standing. And that is to say, I was born in this riding. I care about this riding, and I'm happy to be here in front of all of you to make sure everyone is excited to vote in this election. All right? Democracy, let's do it. I'm very pleased to share the stage with a lot of people who do care about Calgary Centre and its people, the businesses and or the oil and gas sector. We're here to have a good time. I won't get a minute, it's got a full timer here, it's crazy. A lot of people are worried that I'm gonna split the vote here. You're like, what are you doing? What are you doing? I'm gonna split the vote. I'm like, no. I'm here for the winning share of the vote. Greg McLean might have technically won the last election, but he had less than a third of voters vote for him. He had 35,000 on the old riding district. He didn't have 35,000. He only had 30,300. 35,000, 37% more than a third of voters looked at Greg McLean, looked at his opponents in the last election. They said, no, not for me. I don't care. These are not. So for those voters, I'm here now. All right, let's do this. Let's do this. You don't care about them. Sometimes you vote a little bit back and forth between the red and the blue. You know, maybe you flip both ways. It might be bipartisan. You know, but I am here to represent you in this election. It's not just about two parties, man. Like, you know, we have had 8 elections in the last 25 years. 5 of those 8 were minority governments. Why? We don't trust these guys to keep it together. Like, if they get an out of control mandate, they're gonna rule the place. One best country's gonna rule. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate the energy, my friend. Fantastic. Okay, folks, so as discussed, everybody had submitted some amazing questions. Some that had a lot of likes were pretty adjacent to the previous questions with respect to healthcare and otherwise. So the organizing committee made the executive decision to go to some other questions on that feed. So I'm going to read these. I'll read them twice because the candidates don't have these notes in front of them and I can hardly read Jake's writing as it is. So, same program. I'm going to draw out of our disco cowboy hat. And the first question is, why do you deserve the job to represent Calgary Centre? And you're going to have 2 minutes. And after that, we'll open it up to the remaining candidates for 5 minutes of discourse. Jayden, take it away.
All right, thank you for that. Although some people may think I'm not as qualified because I'm younger, I believe that being young actually makes me well qualified to hold a position in Parliament, since we do require diverse perspectives, and a lot of, or the majority of the people in politics right now are older, and so don't necessarily have the same perspectives and viewpoints of current issues as those who are still very young, dealing with the affordability crisis, trying to save up to buy homes, attending university in this rapidly changing economy. And then also, because I care, the whole reason I'm in this is because I am very passionate about ensuring that every single one of my constituents has barrier-free access to the resources they need in order to survive and thrive in the society that we're living in. And so all the policies that me and the party put forward are designed to help you, everyday working class Canadians, while providing support for the most vulnerable, rather than continuing to represent the interests of the ruling class, the wealthy elite, as his political establishment unfortunately often does. And so we're pushing hard for electoral reform and other strategies that make Canada a true democracy rather than what we have now. And so it's one person, one vote rather than $1, one vote. And so people are able to have their voices heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. For the remaining candidates, I'll reread the question. Why do you deserve the job to represent Calgary Centre? Greg, you go ahead first. You raised your hand.
Well, thank you. I ran for this position. I was working in finance 6 years ago, and I ran for this position. First of all, in the nomination, Conservative Party. And I ran with open positions on several issues. One of which, of course, is we have to get our fiscal house in order in this country if we're going to continue to have a prosperous country going forward. We need to build jobs here. We need to open up all kinds of economic activity to make sure we're going to continue to have the social programs required in our society. We've taken good note of all of the important social programs this country has offered us for several years now. What we have to do is continue to build on that base, but build on that base means we have to have a financial financial means to do so, and that means we've got to start living within our means and balancing these budgets, not pushing taxes onto the next generation. Build a country for your kids. But I also ran with some social issues in mind, and those social issues included, you can be a conservative, you can be pro-LGBTQ, and you can be pro-choice. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, I look around at our political landscape and I see that the two major parties currently in power in our government cannot even stake a real position as to whether or not they will end Canadian complicity in genocide. If that's not serious enough to be considered in a election, I really question, as a Jewish person living in Canada, I really hope that you look at our Canada's history on these issues, right? We refused the first Jewish refugees in this country. We refused them. And we're doing it again now. So I really think that people need to look at what's important. What's important is we need to make sure that everyone's taken care of. We need to make sure that our status as a country is not sullied by inaction in the face of a very serious global crisis. I need to make sure that, frankly, we're looking at making sure that our debt's paid. Well, we're paying $50 billion in corporate welfare every year. We have enough money to take care of everyone. We have the money. We can do it now.
Thanks, Paul. Somebody else?
I don't know if it's a question about being deserving. I think that it's commendable for anyone to put their name forward for public service. It's not an easy job. I think for me, I feel a lot of frustration being from Calgary and continuously not having a voice at the table with the majority government in Ottawa. And I think I would really like to earn everyone's vote so that I can be your strong liberal voice within what we think will be a Liberal majority government. And if we walk ourselves out again and only send Conservatives from Calgary, we are going to continue to hit our heads against the wall. So I really
I have great references for this $160,000 a year job, and I think I'm very responsive. I've got great customer service background. Also, I will be heard. Like, I mean, like, Greg, all right, but like, I get a lot of stuff that's just got the PC talking points sent to me. I don't hear much from you. I heard your boss is going to cut all those social programs, by the way. Anyways, but do we need any of these guys to have a majority government? No, we don't want them to have that much control. Let's speak out. Let's use democracy. Let's let Calgary stand out, and I will make sure that we stand out and that everyone gets the point of the right of heart.
We've got a minute left, if anyone would like to carry on. Looks like everyone said their piece. Greg, sure.
Another thing the member of parliament has to do in this riding is represent. That means represent all the communities. All the communities throughout Calgary Centre are important here. The business community, the ethnic communities, the religious communities, everybody has a voice here and they need to have access to their member of parliament and make sure that those are represented in the House of Commons. This is important. This is democracy at its finest. Get to your MP, make sure that they are representing your needs and everything you think should be voiced at the House of Commons in Ottawa, where the federal government is making decisions. And I will say very clearly, that the last time we elected a Liberal in Calgary Centre, effectively there was no voice in cabinet. And that was a cabinet minister. And still, Alberta's economy was decimated by that Liberal government.
I'll just say I'm pretty tenacious, so it's gonna be hard to ignore me.
Okay. All right. We did a quick pivot, so we're gonna allow more time for the original commenter, if there is time. So, just so you, that's what we just put. So the next question, why is your leader the best person to deal with Trump? We have Greg McLean. Why is he the best person to deal with Trump?
Because we're the same. What do you got?
2 minutes, starting now.
Thank you. Electing a government is electing a cabinet. So you elect, Canada does not have a presidential system where you're electing one person to lead the whole country. You are electing a cabinet level government. And I can tell you after 5.5 years of being in the House of Commons, the front bench in the Liberal Party is tired and worthless. And I want to talk about who's held up all of the projects that have been built, that should have been built in Canada at this point in time, and put us in the position we were in. So we are entirely dependent now on the United States for our trade relationships. We did not build our pipelines to Eastern Canada. We did not build our pipelines for Western export of our natural gas, nor our oil. These were canceled by this Liberal government. Therefore, we are actually in a position where we are beholden to a trading partner that is putting his thumb on us. We need to be out of that as quickly as possible. Pierre Poilievre's had policies for how long now to change that situation for the entirety of this Liberal government. Get these pipelines built, get oil and gas developed, get our economy working, get things going in this country again, make our economy work so that we do not have to be beholden to one trading partner. This is very important. Canada will be strong and united when we are economically strong. Coming in there from a position of economic weakness is not something that we should have ever had happen. But the policies of this government have put us in a position of temporary weakness. Go on the same path and continue on that path of weakness, or change paths at this point in time. Pierre Poilievre's policies, some of which have been co-opted by the Liberals at this point in time, puts us on that path to prosperity and economic strength, dealing with our trade partners, not just here, but all around the world. So we're going to do much better. Thank you very much.
A 5-minute timer.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Why is your leader the best person to deal with Trump?
So I would not be here if it wasn't for Mark Carney. I never would have thrown my hat in the ring 6 months ago. And we have the chance to have a brilliant Prime Minister lead Canada through some of the worst economic turmoil that we've experienced in a long time. And lucky for us, he was also appointed by a Conservative government as the Governor of the Bank of Canada to lead us through the 2008 financial crisis. In addition to that, as the Governor of the Bank of England, he led the UK through Brexit. So we are well positioned with a leader in Mark Carney to weather the storm against Donald Trump. Laid the strong foundation to defend Canadian sovereignty, Canadian jobs, and the Canadian economy from the first day that he became Prime Minister.
10 seconds. Meeting Baldonado, over to you.
Thank you. So I'm not sure if all of you are aware or not, but the Green Party actually operates on a dual leadership model where we have two candidates representing our party rather than one, which all of the other parties rely on. So we have, of course, Elizabeth May, who has been a long-time member of Parliament and an amazing advocate for the interests of her community for a long time, and who also has the following in her to stand up against Trump. And then additionally, we have Jonathan Penno, who is our new co-leader, recently elected with the dual leadership model, who has been extensively abroad on global missions to promote peace and provide relief in conflict areas. And so he sees firsthand the impact of what failed diplomacy can do around the world. And so he has the passion and the knowledge required to stand up.
Any other comments from the floor?
Yeah. Ready to
Oh,
go?
okay.
Yeah. I think Canadians can be honest and say that there will not be an NDP majority in this government, right? But our country functions most effectively with a minority government. It's how we got our universal health care in the 80s, it's how we got dental care, pharmacare, right, and universal child care. That's how we function as a country when our voices are represented more fulsomely at the table. A majority government simply does not work that way. Cabinet and parties, they whip their members to get their party policies through that are decided at convention, right? Participating once every 4 years doesn't get your voice at the table. I want to encourage everyone here to get involved on the party level. Make sure that your policies and your priorities as a community are represented in your government. We might not have an NDP majority this election season, but I can guarantee you, if you send an NDPer to represent you in Parliament, your voice will be represented.
Yeah, the current Republican president who claims to be Donald Trump, but also said that the artist of the deal who made the current North American Free Trade Agreement was an idiot. So I don't know who that is in office. But he does apparently notice what people wear when they come to meet him. So when Shrimp Blaze the Duke walks in there with his cowboy hat with a big rhino horn on it, I think he'll be noticed, and he will be sure to get the Canadians' point across. All right. Now we might not get majority, but it's in fact minority government is really what we want because we don't want anybody to screw this country up too badly. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, well, 30 seconds left on the clock. If anybody wants their final remarks, we'll move on. So, what is your position on electoral reform? And why or why not will you advocate for it? Alright, so what is your position on electoral reform? And why or why not will you advocate for it? Beau Shaw, you get to kick it off 2 minutes starting now.
Obvious question. So, of course, I am all in favor of electoral reform. We do not have enough Senate representation in Alberta. We don't have enough MPs in Alberta. We don't have enough representation in Alberta. I would love to see anything beyond first past the post. The NDP have long advocated for a referendum to be put to the public to decide on a voting system that works for everyone, where one vote counts for one vote. And I hope that folks take part in that referendum process. Again, just like the party system, you need to participate in order for your voice to be heard. And just like we're seeing today, there's so many people engaged in the process, and I really want to encourage that moving forward. I would love personally to see a ranked choice ballot. I think that's the most efficient way to get everyone heard, and we get more than one choice. And that's it. It's fun to say no to that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Beau Shaw. Lindsay Luhnau.
Yeah. Thanks so much for this question, whoever submitted it. I actually think that electoral reform and moving to a proportional representation system is really, really important. When I was seeking the nomination here in Calgary Centre, I did get to go through an interview process with the party, and they asked me if there was any previous Liberal policies that I did not agree with or would want to champion a different stance on. And I said, you know, being from Calgary and being from Western Canada, many of us gave our votes to the Liberals in 2015, anticipating electoral reform so that we could have a voice at the table. And it broke a lot of our hearts that it didn't go ahead. So I will be an advocate within the party to bring back proportional representation. I'm not sure how much support I'm going to get, but that is my stance on it.
Thank you to my previous two candidates being in support of proportional representation, which is something that myself and the Green Party have also been longtime advocates for. The model I would personally propose is a pure proportional representation system that goes province by province with the number of seats in each province based on population as it currently is, but rather than having seats or ridings for each seat, where the candidate winning the plurality takes all in each riding, it would be based, the seats in each province would be distributed based on the proportion of the popular vote in that province. So that what that would do is, one, allow what we see, the issue in Alberta with us always being completely or nearly completely blue, having other candidates from other parties who don't necessarily win a plurality but do still have a significant portion of the vote share for those voices, progressive Albertans, to be represented in Parliament that are not currently. And also it will promote more collaboration between party lines, as proportional representation would empower smaller parties and independents to have a better shot at being represented. And so rather than having these majority governments and this divisive political climate, we can work together to build solutions that work for all Canadians.
Okay, let's give Greg a chance to Greg McLean, over to you.
Thank you. 2015 Liberal province, 2017 rejected. So there's a pattern here. Whenever was a promise made for a certain change, and then it doesn't happen after they're elected. But let me go through what this actually means. I'm a strong advocate of Senate reform, so we can actually get some representation across the country that reflects our contributions to this country, which is primarily by region now, and that has been on the table for 50 years, and we haven't moved forward that process yet. We've got to get a better representation in the Senate. Take a look at Australia's model. Australia moved their Senate from an elected Senate to a proportional system of representation in the Senate, whereas their House of Commons is still first past the post. It's an evolution that's actually working in some respects. Here's the thing about proportional representation. It has its benefits, but it also puts a stronger emphasis on party control. This exercise we're going through here today is about you, the constituents, talking to us, the candidates, about who's best to represent you. When you have proportional representation, that is not the way that works. You have much more control of the party, and that does not work that way.
Mixed member.
Okay, Lindsay Luhnau, you'd like to jump in?
Yeah, I'd just like to add that there are many different models for proportional representation that can still give us geographic representation. And I'd also like to say that I hear from many people at the doors, people who are members of the old PC party, people who are on, like generally supporting NDP or Greens, that they're uniting behind a progressive vote that they think will get a progressive to Ottawa. The strategic voting that we have to do here is not something that people like, and I think we want the opportunity to vote with our hearts.
So very quickly, I'd like to counter our Conservative MP Greg McLean's points regarding party control. And that, yes, that's absolutely an issue with our current model, but if we were to have political parties that do not whip the vote or force their MPs to vote along party lines, we could have a proportional representation system in which candidates are free to vote as their the constituents in their region best representing their interests.
Thanks for your input, Scott. We'll give you 15 minutes.
I think it's important to know that that was, a broken promise from the Liberal government. For a silly party, the Rhino Party has done a lot for actual election reform and fighting things in court. It's kind of frightening. But our former leader, Sebastian Coe-Rhino, spoke out quite a lot about proportional representation, and he's been participating in this election with the longest ballot committee to try and bring awareness to election reform. You see, this is where there's some division in the Rhino Party, because you see, he thinks, oh, maybe we can get some more stuff from more parties. Canadians only seem to be only able to handle 2 parties, and that's like the red line for their brains or something. So I think we'll turn the dial the other way. Why don't we eliminate all parties on the federal level, provincial level, right down to the municipal level? And, you don't have to change the election system. You don't have to change how the government works. Maybe they can learn to talk to each other a little better. Right.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Appreciating the lively debate. Thank you, folks, for being respectful in the audience, too. This is awesome. All right, so we've got another question. So especially cryptic, this font you chose to take. What role, if any, do you think the CPC should play in Canada's media landscape? What role, if any, do you think the CPC should play in Canada's media landscape? Scott, you get to kick things off. 2 minutes. Starts.
Like, we're all talking about we need to improve our industry and diversify our economy. Oh, you want to cut jobs? You want to cut stuff in here? I don't think that's a great idea. Keep it at arm's length. Give it some other things. It's lost some of the hockey coverage now. Let's go around the nation. Let's find all these struggling small-time wrestling promotions. And let's bring a Crown Company in here. Doing, that will get all kinds of people, get all breweries behind it, you get a whole bunch of people in the arts and athletics. Let's get Canada strong and mighty and proud, okay? And we can have a great exchange with Germany, the UK, and Japan. I think, and Mexico, our buddies down there. I think that would be a wonderful way to reignite Canada's economy. So start with that. There's all kinds of things. I mean, we need to. They're doing all kinds of things on there. People are like, oh, they're so far. They've moved so far to them. But doing stuff with the kids. You want to cut that? And that's your big thing. I think you're just kind of being silly. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, we'll open up the floor. 5 minutes to discuss what role, if any, do you think the CBC should play in Canada's media landscape? Jayden, Baldonado, why don't you kick things off?
Thank you. I absolutely do support the continued funding and existence of the CBC in providing coverage of important issues that matter to Canadians, because if we don't have a public broadcaster, then what we do have is corporate-owned media, many of which are actually American-owned. And so rather than representing the interests of the Canadian working class people, these media outlets are bought and paid for by American oligarchs. So the CBC, while I know there's going to be some concerns brought up about potential bias, and I think that's something that can be worked on across party lines in order to find a solution and provide balanced, neutral coverage of issues. And additionally, the CBC also allows for local coverage of local issues, especially in those smaller communities that large corporate media outlets often fail to do.
Thanks, Jimmy. Great.
Okay. Maybe before let's end. I know my party's position on this is defund the CBC. Let's look at what that means.
Let's keep it civilized.
Let's look at what we're talking about with the CBC. How many Canadians watch CBC television? Congratulations, good route. It's usually 4% of Canadians watch CBC television. However, radio, 40% of Calgarians in particular listen to the radio. So the radio is a service that is actually serving Canadians. The television news is actually one where Canadians are paying, in review from the Liberal Party, a stipend per person to support a network they don't even watch. If we're going to continue down this hole where we're funding things that 4% of Canadians actually participate in, we're spending money on bad outcomes. So looking at television, take a look at where we need to continue to spend money on CBC. People like the radio. So let's continue to make sure we have CBC radio. People need the services in remote parts of this country. We need the Indigenous language services, and we need Radio Canada, which frankly gets a lot of coverage in Quebec. So these are things where we're going to continue to make sure we have some support for the CBC, but find different ways of delivering the programming the CBC does right now to English Canadian television.
Thanks, Greg. Lindsay Luhnau, go ahead, you got the floor.
Yeah. My mom is here today. She didn't make it inside. She's sitting outside. So for those people outside, point to my mom.
Hey, Mom.
She raised me listening to the CBC. I have a deep love and respect for the CBC, and I'm so proud. I'm so proud of the platform promise to fund the CBC. Most importantly, because we live in a time of disinformation and misinformation. And Canadians need a trusted source to go to get local, regional, and national news. So I'm really happy that we have made that commitment. Oh, I'll just stop there. Thank you.
I think we've got forum here at the table. We all support the CBC. I listen to the CBC radio every single day. Every single day. And I've listened to CBC every single day since I was a child, growing up in Thompson, Manitoba. It was the only exposure I had to global issues in my small town in rural Manitoba. I'm really, really grateful for CBC's programming. It made me question a lot of things in my local area, and it really opened up my mind. Honestly, it was the first time I ever heard a Eurovision performance. And well, gosh, it was Burka Serdushka, Ukrainian drag queen. I'm sure. That just blew my mind. So I really cherish the CBC. I think even CBC's television programs are quite good. It has a lot of Indigenous programming that have been coming out in recent years, and a lot of profiling immigrants and their stories in Canada. So I'm all for
Let's note that CBC's also got a lot of online presence with between the news and everything on their websites and CBC Gem and things like that. And I mean, cutting particularly the TV would cut jobs in Alberta. Because Heartland, I mean, how many seasons of Heartland do we lose? Come on. You're harming Alberta's jobs by threatening to cut the CPC team.
CPC It's staying, it sounds like. Drinking as well as my drill gets me through the day. All right. Fifth and final question, that means we've got one final ball, we'll go through the exercise. So, can you please share your party's approach to supporting Canadians with equitable mental health and substance use supports? So this question is gonna be for you now, the Liberals. So again, can you please share your party's approach to supporting Canadians with equitable mental health and substance use supports?
Thank you very much for the question. So I will just reiterate that healthcare is a prudential responsibility. However, it is very important for us to work collaboratively between the federal government and the provincial government to support people both on the side of mental health and on addictions. The federal government for health transfers has transferred Alberta $24 billion in the last health agreement, allowing the provincial government to move forward and make choices. I think what we can see on the streets of Calgary is that the money transferred is not being used to take care of people. I have seen the federal government had previously stepped in for a clean injection site, which has now been closed and not supported by the provincial government, whose responsibility is healthcare. The lack of action from our provincial government has created a problem of safety downtown, the perception of safety downtown, and has led many people not to feel comfortable on the streets of downtown Calgary. This needs to be addressed immediately. As your representative for Calgary Centre, I will be fighting for more funding directly into Calgary Centre to help to deal with this issue. We need to support people as they move through either mental health crisis or through addictions issues. And we need to be there to support them so that they come through on the other side with support and can live prosperous and fulfilling lives. Thank you.
Jayden, go ahead.
Thank you. So this is an issue that I'm personally extremely passionate about. So I believe that we need to take a proactive rather than reactive approach to mental health, addiction, and homelessness issues, which is an issue that especially affects our riding of Calgary Centre. And so what I see we need to do, rather than the current approach that we're taking right now with the provinces focusing on criminalization and involuntary treatment, those are two things which have been shown by the data to not be effective and actually increase rates of mental health, addiction, and homelessness issues. And so, for one, we need to support harm reduction alongside voluntary, trauma-informed, equitable, no-barrier treatment in order to ensure that everybody is able to overcome their issues on their own terms, while simultaneously focusing on housing, because poverty is the root of a lot of these issues. And if we're able to ensure that nobody is living in poverty, then we can prevent people from becoming struggling with substance use issues in the first place. And
Comment, Jayden.
NDP, of course, supports expanding our current access to healthcare, and that means providing full support for mental health services. That means ending cash for care clinics for even addictions, right? Addictions is a mental health issue, right? It's an issue that can be solved by funding and supporting our healthcare system and blocking deals that privatize our healthcare. So making sure that the Canada Health Act is actually expanded to cover mental health care, and making sure that the Canada Health Act is enforced to prevent privatization in our healthcare systems. And that's how the NDP will go to work for you.
First ran to be a politician in 2019. 2019, I was knocking doors downtown, and you don't see anything like you see now. What you see now downtown is a whole bunch of homelessness, The deaths are down, but the homelessness is increasing significantly. So the mental health crisis is upon us. We have to find a way to deal with it. But this happens too much. I'm sure some of you in the room have probably experienced the same thing when you're giving chest compressions to somebody who is dying on the street. When you're doing that, the first thing to think about is your own kids. And the fact that they might be subject to these drugs that are coming in overseas. We've got to stop the drugs. In 6 years, we have plunged into mayhem on our streets, and we have to stop that. And if that stop means higher criminal penalties for people that are importing drugs, let's look at this as the murder that is. 50,000 people have died from fentanyl overdoses.
You're killing us!
These people into treatment is the most important thing we do in order to get out of this
10 seconds.
problem. This is what's in front of us right now. Let's make sure we deal with it from every level and get people back on their feet, get a society that matters to everybody.
What you would like to stop, if you got something you'd like to say?
War against drugs. I haven't heard about that since the 80s. Anyways, it's a crazy world. And we as electorate, we try and elect some people that we think are going to help and make sense of things. And we elect these wonderful people, they go into office and they turn into clowns and the whole thing's crazy. But you know, the Rhino Party, right from the get-go, we tell you right away, we are clowns. You know what you're getting. And we're the crazy people. We'll be out there in the crazy world. We'll handle the crazy so it doesn't get down to you, okay? A lot of this is a very serious issue, you know, and the Rhino Party's not going to be a majority government here, no. But you got to listen to the experts on this. And a few people are trying to turn this all into a political, oh, we got to do this way because it's our side's thing. Let's listen to what works, okay? All right, let's stop being clowns in there. If you want clowns in office, I'm your clown, okay? Let's do this.
Okay, thank you, everyone. I will unleash some small dogs to cuddle you into kindness if you misbehave, so let's keep it civilized. That, everybody, is a wrap of our questions and debate. We're gonna have an opportunity for closing remarks, and we'll do it in reverse order and then we start it. So everybody's gonna be able to have 2 minutes for their closing remarks. And did we start with Beau at the beginning?
Yeah, we started.
Do we start with Jayden? Okay, we'll go backwards. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, 2 minutes. Beau Shaw of the NDP. Go ahead.
Yeah, I first want to thank everyone for their thoughtful responses to the questions and their thoughtful questions, of course. This has been utmost pleasure for me, getting to know what's really important to folks in Calgary Center beyond what's on the doors, right? It's kind of a high pressure situation. So I just want to leave you with this question, you know, who do you trust to represent you, right? I'm a trans man living in Alberta. I'm afraid I can't trust conservatives to represent me. I'm a Jewish anti-apartheid activist in Alberta and in Canada. I cannot trust liberal government to do what is right. Now, what's left for you? What's left for you is to decide what's right for you. And I hope that you'll make the right decision for yourself, for your family, and for our community here in Calgary Center. Thank you.
Greg McLean of the Conservative Party. You got 2 minutes.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you to the organizers, but thank you for the citizens coming out here to hear what the representatives have to say. It's been a very civil conversation about the different paths forward your country, and I really appreciate that. Right now, we're picking a representative from, not picking a leader, we're picking somebody to represent the concerns of this community going forward. And that is a fundamentally important thing to do in a democracy like Canada. 343 members of parliament, make sure that person doesn't get drowned out, and they bring forth some strengths to this job that are important to this community and important to this country. This is important going forward here. George Brookman published a piece in the Calgary Herald about a week ago about the importance of the local democracy and picking the people at the local level that are going to best represent your concerns, the multitude of your concerns that have to be dealt with in Ottawa. Not in Edmonton, in Ottawa. This is the role that this member of parliament has to fulfill. And that's what you're hearing today about the way each of us, great civic representatives, will bring to that equation. And that is the fundamental role of democracy. What we're doing here is we're voting. Please exercise that vote. That vote has been earned by thousands of people who have shed blood in order for us to exercise this franchise. Democracy is on the wane around the world. Please take a look through all the information, the multitude of information. Take a look for the misinformation. Look for the fact checks on many of what you're hearing, and then make a decision. Make a decision that's going to be about the future of your country, where we're going, what we need to do for you, for your kids, for your grandkids. In the end, make that assessment and please vote.
Luhnau of the Liberal Party, you've got 2 minutes.
I think that we all recognize that the changing situation in the US has caused a threat to our sovereignty and to our economy. And I hear what Greg is saying. A lot of people are getting behind a leader, getting behind Mark Carney because they think that he is really the only one who can stand up to Donald Trump. It is true that you are not electing a leader. You are electing a local representative to stand up for you in Ottawa. I would love to be that local representative for you to ensure that we're breaking down those trade barriers between provinces, that we're building affordable homes now and in the future across Canada. And most importantly, I want to be your strong voice in Ottawa that Calgary is a global leader in all things energy and can lead us through a clean energy transition. You will never hear Mark Carney or I bragging about our crowd sizes. You will never hear us attacking the institutions that we need to protect and people that we need to protect. Please join us in a vision to build Canada better, stronger, and more united. It is a close race here in Calgary Centre, and I'm asking for your vote on April 28th so I can fight for Calgary Centre.
Baldonado of the Green Party, take it away.
Okay, thank you so much for all of you for coming out today on a weekend afternoon to get informed and hear what your different potential MPs have to say about the issues that affect Canadians most. Thank you to my fellow candidates for throwing their hat in the ring to run to represent constituents in the riding. That takes a lot of courage to do, and for being open and willing to engage in civil debate for solutions-focused responses. Something we don't see nearly enough. This is what democracy is all about. Thank you. And so the last thing I'm going to say is I urge you all not to fall into the trap of what's commonly called strategic voting or choosing the lesser evil, because a lot of the time what's happening is people feel pressured to vote for the same establishment parties election after election. And what happens when these two parties know that they'll get your vote no matter what is they get more and more bold with their neglect of the needs of the people. And so we need new representation, and even if a third party or independent candidate isn't elected to a seat, just voting for them and giving them a higher proportion of the vote share sends a message to the establishment that what they're doing is not enough and that we need more. The people want more. And so thank you for that. Feel free to connect with me on either by email through the Green Party website or on my social media accounts. And have a great rest of your day, everybody.
and Scoffey of the Party Rhinoceros, 2 minutes.
I know I've given him a bit of grief, so I want to thank Greg for actually speaking up on something that's very important here, the importance of voting, all right? In the last election, I pointed out, over a third of voters for Calgary Centre looked at the options and said, nah, I'll stay home. And that many people could change the course of the election. They could make any one of us the representative for Calgary Centre. I call dibs, so that's I think. But you know, we've seen red, we've seen blue, we've seen red, we've seen blue. They go back and forth. I think they play Jenga with certain scandals. But who's toppling it now? I'm here to represent. You need a loud voice in Ottawa, and I can be very loud. You want to loud one? I will be loud. I will make sure you know what's going on. I may even start a podcast to say, hey, this is what's happening, you know, in Ottawa. And thank you all for coming here and being interested in democracy and all loving our city, our province, and our nation of Canada. Okay? Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. It's been a slice. Thank you for being kind and courteous. And thank you so much to the candidates for your courage up here today. It was really well done. And thank you very much to Jake Loomis and the organizing team. So the next part of this is going to be a meet and greet. And it's a packed house, so we're going to pivot. Candidates, well, it sounds like it's beautiful outside, so our team's gonna set up some tables outside instead. And that way, folks don't have to breathe on each other's necks. So give us about 5 minutes to set up some nice tables out there so that everybody can have some fresh air and keep it civilized, grab a beer, enjoy your Sunday, folks.